Dr. Hovind, I love your doctoral thesis. I've torn it to pieces with house and gaffle. I can't remember when I last pissed myself laughing. It's a good thing the thesis mopped the piss off the floor.
Welcome to part 16 of this read-through and peer review of Kent Hovind's doctoral dissertation, which was published on wikileaks.org on December the 9th, 2009. If you have not yet seen the previous episodes in this series, then I recommend that you go back and see those first, as I will be starting off in this episode exactly where I left off in the last. In the last episode, Kent went on to tell us all about the Alexandria manuscripts, and how, although they were more contemporary and they were older, they were probably less accurate. In this episode, Kent continues. Another very influential man in Alexandrian school was a man by the name of Origen. He was born approximately 185 AD and died 256 AD. Origen had a very vehement desire to put the evolutionary theory of pantheism into Christianity. He especially thought that Genesis 1 and 2 needed to be changed. I guess he read them, realized they were a few thousand years old, and thought, that looked like bullshit. He thought that they were an allegory, a myth. He said these two chapters were just a story, to try to explain some of the processes God used, and that they were not to be taken literally. A little like the Catholic Church does. You see, a lot of people find the idea of a talking snake rather ridiculous. The idea of Genesis 1 and 2 not being literally scientifically accurate and true probably has one of its major roots in the teachings of Origen. No, Kent, I think you'll find that most people with a little common sense, when reading Genesis 1 and 2, will also come to the conclusion that it probably isn't literally and scientifically accurate. The fact that it all sounds completely absurd tends to give that impression. He is a key man in the history of evolution. Come on, viewer. I know exactly what you're thinking right now. You're thinking somewhere along the lines of origin of the species. The next man in this history of evolution is a man by the name of Augustine. He was born approximately 353 AD and died about 430 AD. He is called Saint Augustine by the Catholic Church. Augustine still plays a vital part in the Catholic Church doctrine. He would be the equivalent of a theistic evolutionist today. And Kent, wouldn't a theistic evolutionist, by your definition, be an oxymoron? You know, a bit like intelligent design and creation science? And now Kent gets his banana out again and grips it firmly in his right hand, and continues. About 620 AD, Muhammad, the founder of the religion of Islam, hated the polytheism that was around him at the time. One of his goals and desires was to develop a monotheistic religion. He developed an unusual mixture between Christianity and Judaism. He eventually became very anti-Christian. I think you'll also find that he became very anti-Semitic as well. Kent continues in his bid to become a eunuch. He wanted a limited god of nature, a pantheistic type of god. Now, dear viewer, if you are of the Islamic persuasion, may I just point out that the next sentence was written by Dr. Kent Hovind. and not by myself. I am simply reading it, so please do not take any offence and pass it in my direction. Kent blunders. The God of Mohammedism is not the God of the Bible by any stretch of the imagination. No, Kent, I think you'll find the correct word is Islam, and I think you'll find that Allah is in fact the God of the Quran. It is a little pantheistic God of nature. And if the word that's forming in your mind right now is fatwa, I would urge you to take a deep breath and count to 10. At this point, Kent makes a broad assumption and misses completely. He continues, because of this, the Islam religion accepts evolution very readily as a scientific fact because it fits so well with their teaching. I'm guessing that Kent has never talked to an Islamic fundamentalist and questioned their views on evolution. It's just as well, really. In the country of Turkey, open brackets, which is almost totally dedicated to Muhammad, close brackets, evolution is taught as fact. Bloody hell, you can tell Kent wrote this 10 years before 9/11. Kent, I think you'll find that Turkey is a very secular society. Yes, the predominant religion may be Islam, but the society itself is very secular and very proud of that fact too. As for teaching evolution as fact in schools, I think you'll find that anywhere that takes scientific inquiry seriously and not religious fundamentalism, you'll find evolution being taught as a fact. But we continue. In 1225 AD, a man was born named Thomas Aquinas. He was called the angelic doctor. He continued Augustine's idea of the pantheist God. He was very influential in reviving Aristotle's teaching in the Catholic Church. What, Kent, you mean that great chain of being thing that you were talking about earlier on? As a matter of fact, it became a law in the Catholic Church that you must teach Aristotle's doctrine as far as the origin of the universe, or you would be treated as a heretic. Yes, Kent, Christianity and the Church has got an awful lot to be sorry about, hasn't it? In the early 1600s, Galileo invented the telescope. He looked at the moon and noticed the rugged surface of the moon. He then said that the moon was not smooth like Aristotle said it was. Aristotle had said back in 400 BC that the moon was like a perfect smooth sphere, a crystal ball to reflect sunlight. Galileo even published a book that stated that the moon was not smooth. Aristotle was also contradicted by Galileo in his theory of gravity. Aristotle had said that heavier objects fall faster than lighter objects. Galileo proved that to be wrong. In the mid-1600s, Galileo was under penalty of death by the Catholic Church, had to retract his awful heresy of teaching that the moon was not smooth. He had dared to suggest that the doctrine of Aristotle as taught by the Church could be wrong. Now, Kent, let's be honest here. Although Galileo did get into trouble with the Catholic Church about the smoothness of the moon, he is most famously known for being the man who went up against the Catholic Church and said that the Earth is not at the centre of the solar system. But you're not going to bring that up here, are you, Kent? Because the problem is, most of your audience thinks that Galileo was wrong.